Welcome back. It's Ed Martin here in a Pro America Report. Our next guest is a journalist who got in touch with me because she was writing a piece that ran in the Wall Street Journal about Phyllis Schlafly, and her name is Abigail Shrier. And so I gave her a bunch of background, and she wrote this really very interesting and I think thoughtful column in the Wall Street Journal. It turned out to be, I think it was really great, but I mean, she worked hard on it and had this exchange. And then she also gave me a copy of her book that's going to come up. Abigail, how long? In a month or two? June
30th.
Oh, June. So it's this month. So good. Well, so we'll have her back on to talk about the book. But the book, and Great. Abigail, I'm sorry now, remind me the title of the book, because it's back on. It's literally, though, you'll like this, it's on my bedstand next to my bed. So it's not like so it's not here. But tell me the title of the book again.
Yes.
Irreversible Damage.
Irreversible Damage, yeah. The Transgender, Craze, Seducing Our Daughters.
And we will have Abigail back on. She's already agreed to talk about her book in a few weeks because you need to hear more about it. But I just got to tell you, like I told her, I read the book. She sent me a copy to look at and to review because we do book reviews for my work. And I read the book and I walked around as I read it because I was thinking about how it was just challenging about the transgender movement and what it does. And in the book, she talks to people that have gone through this and that are sort of successful and that regretted it. It's in a way, it's the wrong word, but it's close. It's kind of haunting. So it's irreversible damage, but we'll talk about that later. But I wanted to get Abigail on because I want to ask her about this Title IX story. I told the listeners about it last week, Abigail, but the Trump administration's ruling is that the Title IX requires that women's sports not have the transgenders come over and compete in women's sports. Was it a surprise to you that the decision came down that way?
No, I mean, I was very happy about it. The Trump administration has been very good on this issue, and the ruling is not exactly that they can't, it's not sort of to exclude transgender individuals, but the point of it is that, look, sports is about biology. It's always been about biology. We've always separated male and female sports because the what happens to the body in puberty and male puberty creates unbridgeable and massive advantages for male athletes, especially in speed and strength. And this is something we know. They have a massive advantage. And having people, transgender identified or not, who are biologically male compete with women is just unfair. And it's a violation of Title IX. That's what they said. It was a violation of Title IX. And the reason it is that Title IX requires, of the education amendments, requires equal funding and equal opportunities for male and female sports. Well, right now in the state of Connecticut, you have fewer biological women going on to regional championships because they are consistently being beaten out by biological boys. That's just a clear violation of Title IX. So I'm very happy the Trump administration recognizes.
We're talking with Abigail Shrier, and I should have said she writes for the Wall Street Journal. She's also an attorney, Yale Law School, and she's got this upcoming book, which I mentioned, called Irreversible Damage: The Transgender Craze, Seducing Our Daughters. Back to Title IX, because that's why I had you on to explain it better than I did. So what happens next? If Title IX and the Education Department of the federal government, Betsy DeVos, says you shouldn't allow this, how do they enforce it?
Oh, that's a good question. How do they enforce it? I don't know. I don't know how they're going to enforce it. This is one of those things that's clearly going to end up in the courts. There's going to be a lot of, at some point the Supreme Court may end up taking this. I don't know. But I think it will end up getting enforced through the courts because right now what's going on is really tragic. I mean, these are girls who train their whole lives only to be beaten by mediocre athletes for the boys team. So consistently the boys who beat them have no standout achievements as biological boys. So when they race boys, they have no standout achievements. And lo and behold, when they compete with girls, they are suddenly consistently taking the top spots. In fact, in the state of Connecticut, they won 13 out of 14 state championship events since 2017 to biological boys. So you can see, and these are boys with no standout achievements when competing with boys. So, that's a situation. It really is. It's really a tragedy for these girls who've spent their whole lives working to this moment.
Abigail Shrier is who we're talking to, and on Twitter, she's at Abigail Shrier, Shrier is how she spelled her last name. Abigail is how Abigail spelled, and you'll see right there on her Twitter feed the book that's coming out, Irreversible Damage. Okay, so Title IX happens. The Supreme Court is taking some of these issues up. There's a case before the Supreme Court. I think it's in this session. It hasn't been decided yet, but I want to go sort of towards every time I write about this, and I don't know if you're on my email list, Abigail, but I sent out an email today about this. I get responses. I've sort of been trolling this idea. I've been testing it. I went to a speech in Tampa Bay about the ERA, and I brought up, well, if you don't think abortion rights is a good enough reason, if you don't think that, then what about transgender? And I had people that were for ERA come up afterwards and say, yeah, by the way, I'm with you on this because I can't believe they're doing this to our daughters. It's an interesting populist issue, isn't it? The transgender issue. There's a lot of energy behind it, but people don't quite know how to talk about it yet.
I think that's right. I mean, I think that, I certainly, I talk to, and work with tons of, people on the left with this
right.
issue. I mean, not hardcore leftists, but people, women, feminists who cared about Title IX, who recognize the achievement. I mean, right now, they talk about, erasures in history or whatnot. There is no clearer, example of that than what's going on in Connecticut today. Biological boys are setting records as girls. They are setting girls'
right.
records in the state of Connecticut that no girl can beat. They are literally erasing the achievements of young girls in the top of their form. And to just give you an example of the kinds of things why this unfairness, Allison Felix is a U.S. runner. She's remarkable. She's the fastest woman in the world. And in her 400-meter race, her record time was 49.26 seconds, okay? Based on 2018 data, almost 300 high school boys in the United States can beat her.
Wow.
That's how big the difference is. That's how big
right.
the difference is. So women who care about women's achievement and women's opportunity, and they have nowhere to go in the Democratic Party today. Because, to be honest, the Democratic Party has clearly turned its back on women and girls. All the major, candidates for president for the Democratic nomination supported the Equality Act. This is not a serious party right now when it comes to caring about women.
Well, and Abigail, again, we're talking with Abigail Shrier, who's a journalist with Wall Street Journal, as well as an author now of this new book. But it's also it's a surprise how unfair it is, right? I mean, we've spent a lot of time. I mean, I'm going to sound like a feminist. We spent a lot of time making it so there was more opportunities for women and girls and all. And now we're letting it go away because of the transgender. And I guess the extension, when in your research on this, is it an extension of the gay rights movement? Is an extension of the far left on abortion? How does it carry the day? You would think a lot of women who are self-identified feminists would say, yeah, wait, I draw the line there. You're going to gut my, they're also putting in the paper, you see this all the time, that the stoppage in our lives, the great pause, I call it, has caused it's caused stress on athletic departments at universities, and they're cutting women's programs and men's programs because they can't keep up with it. I mean, what is it politically that's allowed this to get such a head of steam?
I think it comes from, really, it's more than a gay rights issue, because it isn't. It's more than anything, it's
right.
a pure leftist impulse to just destroy and to take advantage. And the reason I say that is, first of all, for my book, I interviewed a lot of transgender individuals. They are genuinely transgender. They were lovely people, and they were, many of them male to female transgenders, and they would say to me over and over, we don't want to make women uncomfortable. We're not trying to hurt, get into a female bathroom or change
right.
in a female locker room. That's not our ambition. These activists have taken over, and they really don't speak for us. And I really believe that's correct, that the hard left that is pushing this so aggressively, and it's a shame that feminist organizations have been so cowardly, with a few notable exceptions. Most of them in the United States have been so cowardly, and they have not stood up for women and girls. And the one exception to that is the Women's Liberation Front, which has been very, very serious and very good on this issue. But everyone else seems very happy to hand over women's rights to the next group that claims them. And it's wrong.
It is. It's fascinating. It's a great time to have your book out, and we will talk to you again about that. It's called We'll talk with Abigail Shrier about her book, Irreversible Damage, the Transgender Craze, Seducing Our Daughters, in a few weeks when it comes out on June 30th. But thanks, Abigail, for talking about this story from last week, and we'll be back in touch.
Oh, thank you so much. Always great to talk to you.